Hello, and welcome to 4 Random Books, by my count, episode 8. And today's theme, well, this one's theme, is Churchill. It's a fun time. I'm going to leave this book for the end. So, this book dropped on me. And it's Churchill's Secret of War. It's Diplomatic Decrypts, the Foreign Office and Turkey, 1942-4, by Robin Denniston. And it's a cool book to read. It's about things you don't really think about, but considering his experience with the Dardanelles campaign and the First World War, it's almost understandable that Churchill is pretty much obsessed with Turkey throughout World War II and throughout keeping her from getting involved. Churchill loved the Decrypts, as one who had been fascinated by cryptanalytic intelligence from 1940 onwards and who regarded it as of the utmost importance. Churchill alone enjoyed this overall view of intelligence. At this stage, there was no integration of the material except in his head. It was a state of affairs that did not appeal to the military departments or the Foreign Office, especially when the PM was liable to spring on them stuff they had not read or known. Andrew Hodges in Alan Turing, The Enigma of Intelligence. Churchill does love various things, as it's a sort of fun way to fight a war, but I suppose it's one way to keep things secure, to have only a single point where everything's pulled together, so therefore, even if your enemy does penetrate you, they won't be able to know anything. But the thing is, it also makes organization freaking difficult. On 21st of April, the Foreign Office explained why it was hanging on to Turkey. Turkey's position is an extreme delicacy and important complexity. A fundamental factor is Turco-Soviet relations, and the bearing thereof with Anglo-Soviet relations. A subject outside the sphere of the Minister of State, Harold Macmillan. Turco-American relations became increasingly important, and the complete picture is only visible in London. On 7th July, the Japanese ambassador in Istanbul, Kurikana, reported on Turkish relations. Turkey is shilly-shallying and heading for friendliness. Since the fall of Tobruk, Turkey was dismayed at the sudden change in the war situation and seemed to be considered agitated, and it is generally thought that there would be some change shortly. Neither Churchill, though, nor the Foreign Office would have been pleased to read Kurikana reporting that, "I think we, the Japanese, should lean on Turkey because the PM and Shakmak, Marshal of all Turkish armed forces, have for a long time advocated cooperation with Germany. So Turkey getting closer to the Axis may not be difficult." Think about World War II, and if Turkey had joined the Axis. As it was, my feeling is that Turkey was happy to indicate to both sides that she was happy to be friends with them. It's always best to play both sides off against each other if you can, and World War II did give her that opportunity. It's an interesting book. It's a different one, but it is an interesting book. And it was published in 1997 by Sutton Publishing Limited. It's a good book. So, Dreadnought. I know it's not about Churchill, but Churchill is a major factor in this book and its success, and this is by Robert K. Massie. This is the story, in many ways, the story of the context of the naval race between Britain and Germany, which is a major factor in World War One. Well, major factor in actually Britain getting involved in World War One. Arguable if Germany hadn't built a large navy, that the Royal Navy of Britain would have got involved in World War One. It directly. It would have probably instead done a beneficent neutrality routine and supplied Russia and France with all the equipment they so needed in exchange for a suitable Well, on a suitable line of credit, of course, that they would pay back with interest. Maybe a few donations. But the fact is, Massie starts us off with Trafalgar, then as an introduction to sea power. Then he gets into Victoria and Bertie, Vicky and Willie, the Blood and Iron, Bismarck's Grand Design, the New Course, Kaiser Wilhelm II, Caprivi and Hollenhall, the Monster Labyrinth, Buller and Weltmach, Ships of My Own, Tirpitz and the German Navy Laws, the German Challenges Part 1. And the thing is, he also has a chapter entitled, I Do Believe That I Am a Glowworm in here. This book is attempting to be very, very comprehensive. And that's a good thing. Because whilst I don't agree with everything in it, and there are scholars who have written books which are better on certain areas, what it does do is give a reader, if they're prepared to read it, rather like Command of the Ocean, Nicholas Rogers one, a very in-depth overview of what was going on that allows you to put things in a sort of readable historical style, that you're able to think about things in terms of their broader context, or at least start approaching them. You need to read probably more to get the detail necessary for the broader context. But this is a good book. The King's support of France and her foreign minister reflected the view of the British people, press and government. Lord Lansdowne, who had not anticipated that his colonial agreement with France would lead within a year to a European crisis, was wholly sympathetic to Delicasse. He understood that the German challenge was not simply a defence of legitimate German economic and treaty interests, but an attempt to smash the Entente. With cabinet support, he refused to back away from Britain's commitment to France. There was another factor in the British policy. By the spring of 1905, many Britons were worried about the growth of the German Navy. New First Sea Lord Sir John Arbuthnot Fisher had proclaimed that Great Britain had only one enemy at sea, the German Empire. Fisher's reaction to the Morocco crisis was typically impetuous. This seems a golden opportunity for fighting the Germans in alliance with the French, so I earnestly hope you may be able to bring this about. The First Sea Lord wrote to Lansdowne on May 22nd, Of course, I don't pretend to be a diplomat, but it strikes me that the German Emperor will greatly injure the splendid and growing Anglo-French Entente if he is allowed to score now in any way, even if it's only get rid of M. de Classe. All I hope is that you will send a telegram to Paris that the English and French fleets are one. We could have the German fleet, the Kiel Canal, and Schleswig-Holstein within a fortnight. Fisher's belligerence was not government policy. When President Theodore Roosevelt offered to mediate the dispute between Britain and Germany, Lansdowne coldly telegraphed to Washington, We have not and never had any intention of attacking Germany, nor do we anticipate that she will be so foolish as to attack us. But Lansdowne fully agreed with Fisher on one point. Germany must not, as a result of the crisis, be allowed to obtain a naval base or even a coaling station on Morocco's Atlantic coast, from which she could threaten the sea lanes to South Africa and around the Cape. On April 25th, Lansdowne sent a message to Delicasse that if the Germans asked for reports, the British government would join the France in opposition. Lansdowne never diluted this offer. Indeed, on May 25th, he suggested that the two countries discuss in confidence all contingencies. Delicasse believed he was on the verge of an Anglo-French military alliance. What's good about this book is it goes on. Massie doesn't stop there. Massie produces Castle Steel, Britain, Germany, and the Winning of the Great War at Sea by Robert K. Massie. And this again has Churchill in it, unsurprisingly. It also has a picture of Bayern sinking in Scapa Flow, and a few other lovely cool pictures. And North Sea, Admiral Jellicoe's view from the bridge of his flagship, the Dreadnought Iron Duke. Battle of the Falkland Islands, this comes from this chapter. Captain Merker had just signaled Spade that Gneisenau was about to open fire when he received a shock. Without warning, two gigantic mushrooms of water, each 150 feet high, rose out of the sea 1,000 yards to port. This was heavy caliber gunfire, although the guns themselves could not be seen. Immediately, Merker hoisted his battle lanterns and turned away, but not before a second salvo spouted up 800 yards short of a ship. Before abandoning his mission, Merker considered a final attempt to harm the enemy. The first British cruiser coming out of harbour was recognised as a county-class ship. It was Kent. And Merker, believing that she was trying to escape, increased speed to cut her off outside the entrance to Port William. Scarcely had he settled on a closing course, however, when he received a signal from Scharnhorst. This was not the unopposed landing Spee had planned. He had no wish to encourage British armoured cruisers or old battleships with 12-inch guns, and he ordered Merker to suspend operations and rejoin the flagship. Do not accept action. Concentrate on the course east by south. Proceed at full speed. Spee retreated because he knew that a 12-inch gun ship or ships were present. He was certain they were the old battleships that his squadron could easily outrun. Merker turned and made off at high speed towards the flagship, 12 miles away. By 9:45 a.m., Glasgow had come out of the harbour and joined Kent. The light cruiser's captain, John Luke, decided carrying memories of Cornell was in. By 9:45 a.m., Glasgow had come out of the harbour and joined Kent. The light cruiser's captain, John Luke, carrying memories of Cornell, was eager to attack the Jones by himself, but he was ordered to remain out of range, trail the enemy, and keep Admiral Sturdy informed. At 9:50 a.m., the rest of the squadron weighed anchor and proceeded down the harbour. First came Carnarvon, with Stoddart aboard, then Inflexible, Invincible, and Cornwall. Only Bristol, still reassembling her engines, and Macedonia were left behind. At 10:30 a.m., as the last of the line of British ships cleared the Cape Pembroke lighthouse, 5 retreating plumes of smoke could be seen on the southwest horizon. 3 hours had passed since the enemy first came in sight, and Sturdy could be thankful for the fine weather. Had there been fog or mist, he might have missed less than half an hour's notice of Spee's arrival. Instead, the sun was shining from a blue, callous sky, and a light northwesterly breeze scarcely ruffled the sea. Ideal conditions for a long-range action. Everyone on both sides who survived the battle recalled the extraordinary weather. The visibility of the fresh, calm atmosphere surpassed everything in the experience of sailors, recalled Pockhammer of Gneisenau. Basically, Sturdy was a slow-moving... my views on Sturdy are well known, but this book is very, very good. It will not improve your views on Sturdy. It will possibly improve some of your views on Jellicoe. I'm not quite sure about his opinion about Beatty. I think possibly he might secretly like him a lot. But it's a good book. It's worth reading, and it's quite interesting to read in terms of its content. So that's Castle Steel by Robert K. Massie. Comes out after Dreadnought. And, finally, last book of the Churchill series, and I've got 2 minutes, is the selected and edited by his grandson Winston S. Churchill, Never Give In, the best of Winston Churchill speeches. Now, in here, there is one particular speech, which is, how do I put this politely, quite commonly used by me when I am trying to make a point. There's a short part of it on the front, but .306. You cannot tell from appearances how things will go. Sometimes imagination makes things out far worse than they are. Yet without imagination, not much can be done. Those people who are not imaginative see many more dangers than perhaps exist. Certainly many more than will happen, but then they must also pray to be given that extra courage to carry this far-reaching imagination. But for everyone, surely, what we have gone through in this period, I am dressing myself to school, surely from this period of 10 months, this is the lesson. Never give in. Never give in. Never, 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 in nothing great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force, never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. We stood alone, all alone, a year ago, and to many countries it seemed that our account was closed. We were finished. All this tradition of ours, our songs, our school history, this part of the history of this country, were gone, finished, and liquidated. Very different is the mood today. Britain, other nations fought, had drawn a sponge across her slate, but instead our country stood in the gap. There was no flinching and no thought of giving in, and by what seemed almost a miracle to those outside these islands, though we ourselves never doubted it, we now find ourselves in a position where I say that we can be sure that we have only to persevere to conquer. Winston Churchill. Never short of a rousing speech, that man. Absolutely exceptional book. Never give in. Anyway, thank you very much. And I'm gonna. These are supposed to be 16 minutes long, 15 minutes long. They keep ending on about 16. So, take care. Thank you.